Now let's suppose that you want to write a program that stores a database of your CD collection, just your audio CDs. And for each CD you want some sort of record, and it needs to store, well, the name of the CD, the artist, the person who recorded it, the number of tracks, and then finally a user score, a rating of each CD. The problem, of course, is that there is no CD data type that contains all that information. There is a standard char type that contains the information on a character, a standard int type that contains the information on an integer, but how do I create a CD data type? Now it turns out that defining a CD data type or any other custom data type with multiple fields, multiple bits of data in it is not a big problem. You can do this by creating structures or structs. Now here you can see is a struct capable of holding all the data items that I need for a CD. That's a name, artist, track count, and rating. To declare a struct, you begin with the keyword struct, followed by a pair of curly brackets. Between the curly brackets, you put a semicolon delimited list of one or more variables, that's the fields, for each record that you're defining by this struct. And the closing curly bracket should be followed by a semicolon. Now once you've declared a named struct, as I have here with the CD struct, you can create variables of the type of that struct. Now for example down here I've created a variable called this CD and it's of the type CD. And up here I've created a 4-slot CD array called CD underscore collection, and the number is defined up here. Number of CDs is 4. So let's look at the syntax for declaring a simple struct variable. To declare a struct variable, you begin with the keyword struct, followed by the struct name, such as CD, which was defined earlier, and then a variable name and a semicolon. A struct definition, such as CD, acts as a sort of a blueprint from which multiple struct variables, possibly called my CD, your CD, another CD, and so on, can be created. So you can think of each struct as a sort of a data record, and each of its variables as the fields of that record. So just to remind you, this is my declaration of a struct. Its name is CD, that's the type of the struct that I've created, and each of these contents of the CD struct, the name, the artist, the track count and the rating, can be used as variables that are wrapped up as fields of that record. And when my code needs to access those fields, well, let's have a look at an example down here in this printf, where I've got a CD variable called this CD, and this is how I access the fields. So I have the variable name followed by a dot and then the field name, this CD dot name, this CD dot artist, and so on. Now in this sample program, which is 01 underscore structs, I've created an array. Let's have a look up here. This array CD underscore collection of these CD structs, and it has a range of CD records or structs from index 0 to an upper limit, which I've defined by the constant number underscore of CDs. And I now want to write a loop to display the data from each field of each struct in the array, and that loop is this one down here, which, as I've just said, uses the dot notation to display the data. Just as you can access the data fields using the field name after a dot, when you want to display some data, for example, so too you can assign value to those fields using dot notation, and that is what I've done in this function up here, create underscore CD collection. One by one I've gained access to each slot of my array, and using dot notation I've assigned data to each of those fields. when it's a string, I've had to use strcpy to copy the string into it. When it's a simple integer, then I've just done a normal assignment. And so I've created all those CD structs, put them into my array, and displayed the end results, one record at a time, in the display underscore CD collection function. Let me see it working. Build and run project. And there you are. That's the information on each CD struct that I've created and which I've stored in the array.